Here comes the nasty gram.
Send a priest to save my soul, forget it.
Welcome back to the Nasty Graham Dungeons & Dragons podcast. You're listening to A Tangled Web, Chapter 12, Homeland.
Feeling it too hard is the poison to the heart of a cynic.
Yes, brother, it is interesting that we find ourselves aligned with this group again. I agree. These things are connected. They must be. Duskrins in Waterdeep. Salavage children being lured into the darkness of Menzo. The Moon Maidens return to that same darkness she condemned to shine her light into it to find lost souls. Something that our dear brother has lost. Well, not his, but his wife's. And the mute wizard, it seems he owes us. Yes, brother, owes you a favor for Fenrir's End. My point is that he is the one we must watch the most. He doesn't know why he came. That imp, it speaks for him, but it follows another, much like Zavir himself. The wizard's tricks, they are useful, though. Summoning that wretch Pitrix confirmed our suspicions were true and Charlax was wrong. It is more than a mere trap to lure us down here. Mother does plan to return, and that bitch wants revenge, brother. Shall we show her what we have become? To allow you, dear brother, to have your revenge.
Menzoberranzan, the West Wall. 308 days remain. A procession of drow soldiers in polished black chainmail escort a trio of floating magic discs through a crowded street. Upon each disc, in their spider silk robes of authority, are 3 high priestesses. The crowd parts, giving the procession plenty of space as they pass. Within the crowd, we see a nondescript drow woman in dirty robes. Her hands flash quickly to another spectator, and the gesture is repeated by several others. As one, a dozen members of the crowd lift masks and cowls to cover their faces and disappear into darkness. A moment later, globes of darkness cover the entire procession of soldiers and priestesses. The streets are abandoned as the crowd flees. We see only a column of darkness. We hear nothing. When the darkness spells dissipate a few moments later, the soldiers and priestesses are all dead. On the cobblestone street, written in the blood of a high priestess, are the words, "Loth is weak." Welcome back to Menzoberranzan. I'm Jake, and I'm going to be your dungeon master, and I'm joined by...
Do I go first?
You go first.
You go first.
I think we just go around the table.
Mm-hmm. John threw me off. This is Josh playing Zavir,
Spoiler.
the silent spell slinger.
Hey folks, Dan here playing Salafar, formerly of House Duskrin, Warlock.
What's good, fam? Matt will be playing Jidin Duskrin of House Duskrin, Arcane Trickster Rogue.
And I am Devin. I'll be playing Moon Maiden Salai, Dispeller of Minor Devils.
Had to go and change your name. And we have a guest for this arc, at least. I mean, you've all heard him before.
Hey, it's John. I'm here. What's up?
Hey, John.
Should I say my character?
Nah.
No, okay, we'll save it. I'll be in later.
We see Jidin leading the 4 of you through a very narrow, winding, natural tunnel in the Claw Rift. Jidin, you stop for a moment, looking in 3 different directions as the tunnel splits, trying to remember which way You pick a tunnel. You move around a corner. And then through a crack that is only discernible when looked at from a certain angle. And as you come around that corner and through that crack in the wall, it opens into a cavern. But what does that cavern look like? Well, that's what we're going to discuss right now. Because what you have just entered was once a hideout of your guild, the guild that you are part of, House Bergendarth.
Sick.
But it has been abandoned because House Bergendarth has pretty much moved out of the city. You're using it as a hideout. We kind of discussed this off mic at the end of the last game. But I want you guys to tell me what this hideout is like. And to do that, we're going to do the thing we did in the very first game. We're going to roll a d20 and we're going to establish some sort of trait about the hideout. Again, if it's above 10, the higher the better. Below 10, the lower the worse. I'm going to roll. I'm gonna roll twice because I'm the dungeon master. I get special privilege.
There's gonna be so many spiders. Place just full of spiders.
And we're gonna perfect. I got a 3 and an 18. Awesome.
Cool. 17.
16.
6.
19.
Ooh, Josh, I can always count on you to
Bring us down.
min the party. So we're gonna save yours for last, Josh.
What I'm here for.
Yeah. I'll start.
It's like the Yankee swap of all the gifts. Josh picks first, picks last.
Well, actually, I'm gonna let Matt start because Matt, I want you to kind of describe what this place looks like, and then you can maybe talk about a positive aspect.
Okay. Let's see. Say it opens up into a fairly good sized cavern. It's got a lot of like built-ins. There's a lot of like shelves built into the walls for stuff, for like storage, easy access for stuff, for like kitting up and moving out of this space. It was kind of like that ready room for them. And as you move through it, it's like a half circle after you come inside, and then off of it, it spiders off in veins of these narrow hallways that start off wide and thin out like natural fissures into the wall. But each one, as you like move down them, you can see that the rooms that have been carved off are strategically placed so that each one is like offset for the other. So you have places to fall back to if you're ever attacked or need to like hole up somewhere.
Cool.
Awesome. The structures are mostly kind of carved into the stone, right? So what we see, it's not like they didn't take the buildings with them or anything. But I would say that, there's not really any equipment. There was no need to leave anything behind. Most of those things were taken, but you guys kind of spread out and start kind of investigating the space. And I'm going to throw in my 18 here, and I'm going to say, Zavir, as you're walking into that main cavern, you notice on the floor, carved around the exterior, the edges of the wall, you see a bunch of runes. And you realize that they are some sort of protection against divination magic. Someone spent a lot of time warding this place and basically making an area of non-detection here.
Really? Still active?
It's still active.
That's handy.
So that's my thing.
That's your good thing.
Yeah.
And you guys all got good things?
These three.
Devin got the best thing, and Dan got 17. Yeah.
Matt got a 17. I got a 16.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you guys doing?
Do you want us to go through all of them?
Yeah, I mean, just go, role play it / say what it is, whatever, in whatever way you want.
Mine was
Make it cool.
Mine was fairly similar. Well, it was along the lines of like latent or old magic, and it was going to be the idea of an alarm, like the alarm spell that was cast permanently on some of the pathways that lead back into it, so you always know when someone's approaching. I don't know if that kind of walks the line of a 16.
That's fine with me. Yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe as we're approaching and as sort of our train moving through the passageways, we knew that Jidden was up ahead, and we kind of heard back through the passage that bell ring of the alarm spell.
I'd say in that main cavern, there's actually like a couple hanging up near the ceiling. There's a couple like wind chimes, cool. And which is a sort of weird, eccentric thing to have in the Underdark. But if you've ever met Jidden's boss, you know he's all about weird, eccentric things.
That's true.
So as Jidden walks ahead, one of them kind of chimes, and you realize that like. It'll take you a little while to figure it out, but they all seem to be connected to sort of different areas and different passages to kind of give you an idea of who's moving through.
Cool.
I rolled a 6. So I think what a bad thing at some point in the past, after it was abandoned, it was infested by some kind of smaller burrowing creature. So a lot of it is riddled with these, like a honeycomb of smaller little tunnels coming in and out.
Did you just give us bedbugs?
Termites.
I'd say the infestation is gone, but when I say smaller, like D&D smaller, so like too small for a person to comfortably fit, but small creatures could easily get in and out of here.
Rodents of unusual size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like anything, like dog or goblin sized or smaller, it would be, there are many ways in and out.
Salai walks up next to Zavir as he's investigating these holes. She pokes at a couple of them with her feet, and then she smells the air. Do you smell that?
Zavir looks at you.
She waves her hand and sort of beckons, and this draft of wind passes by your face. Use druidcraft. And you smell fresh flowing water, because these burrowing creatures, and as well as shifts in the rock, you can smell fresh air as a channel of water, fresh water that flows underneath this part of the claw rift and like empties into the lake, maybe on the other side of Menzoberranzan.
So they just put in like a bunch of taps. We have like different
we could, but it could also be a way out. There's like a fissure in the ground.
So you're going to use your 19 for indoor plumbing?
We have access to fresh water in case it's a valuable thing. Maybe a way out.
I was going to say, if someone rolled a 20, I wanted us to find a bunch of old, like a cache of magical items that was left behind.
Yeah. My first idea was
sweet.
like magical trap, but then you got us the non-detection. I was like, okay. And there's fish in the water too, so we can eat if we have to stay here for a long time.
Baby aboleths.
You guys are walking through as a group. Salivar and Jidden. The two of you see something down a tunnel in the dark. It's a woman, a drow woman, and she looks at both of you, and then she walks through the wall. The rest of you don't see it.
Your 19 was supposed to be for not being haunted. I had that written on my list.
I think your three is going to be drow lady.
Drow lady.
Sounds perfectly fine.
Have her over for tea.
You a good witch or a bad witch?
Fresh water is very important to keep away disease.
Absolutely.
That's what I got healing potions for.
Good to know this can pass inspection in case the Board of Health comes by.
Fully operational sprinkler system.
Can we just label one the poop hole?
Yes.
Make sure that we're only using one.
No sprinkler system, so we just have to get a very low occupancy permit.
You're like, it's completely made of stone. It's not going to burn. And they're like, doesn't matter, though.
Okay, so to summarize, we have former infestation. There's holes everywhere. But those holes also give us fresh sources of water and some pools in some place where there's?
Yeah, up to Jake if we can go down there now or if we have to dig it out or whatever. I don't know how much time we want to spend in here.
Part of it is covered by a non-detection spell. There are some kind of alarm wards in places.
Yep.
What was yours, Matt? That there is a large main chamber, like ready room
Yeah.
kind of thing that's
And
well
then-
suited for
Caves that spider out off the back of it with rooms carved into them.
spider. Huh?
So it's like it's defensible too, like the way it was
Yeah.
designed. I think that's sort of the part of it.
and
And then
mystery
there's
drow.
there's an unwanted guest.
spirit lady. But that was a
Current infestation.
positive number.
No, that was not. That was a 3.
Yeah, that was a 3.
Oh,
The positive one I gave was the non-detection.
right. Okay, I guess we probably sweep through it and reconvene.
This place is mostly empty.
Salivar says that as he walks back through and sees the rest of you in the main chamber. He glances at Jidden when he says that, knowing that you saw her too.
Just one.
Zavir sets his pack down, and the little shadow imp scurries out of his robe and perches up. It says, "The wizard has discovered a number of active arcane runes still in place. There are some forms of protection, notification, as well as a portion protected by a ward of non-detection, preventing scrying eyes. Could be quite useful."
They are active.
Yes,
Salivar says as he sort of runs his hand across the runes in the wall.
the wizard will have to study them more to know their limits, as well as how to tap into this arcane alarm system.
Salivar glances at
Azun, the imp.
no,
Is that the name? Oh,
Josh.
Zavir.
Zavir. We haven't used his name as much. Glances at Zavir, just always interested in the difference in disposition between the mouthpiece and the mouth, so to speak, or lack thereof. It's a little torture humor for you.
You can see Zavir looks like he's kind of setting up some kind of ritual area. He's taking out chalk, incense, loose crystals. Looks like he's setting up to impress this 30-year-old white girl.
he's opening a yoga studio.
You can tag it on Instagram.
Sophia puts up a live, laugh, love poster.
Salai pulls up on a string a little cup of water and takes a drink. There is fresh water here, though we may be able to stay here for a long time. I wish to move with haste.
Salivar's nodding slowly, and he says,
So what is our mission here? I know mine. But there are other things afoot.
Your sons are capable. If we were to find them, bring them to our cause, we would be that much stronger.
I would sooner send them home.
You would send them out of your sight again?
They are capable, but they do not know the threats of this city. They were not raised here. They are not drow.
What safer place than among drow? Among us, we can keep them safe.
You have been away quite a while, haven't you? Safety among them here.
This place is different now. I can feel it.
Different how?
There is an unrest.
Salivar kind of chuckles at that.
Is that not Menzo? Constantly vying for power, overthrowing one another?
It is not the chaos of drow that shakes this place. It's something else. I know it.
Whatever it is, it will bring it crashing down.
Indeed it will.
And that is what they deserve.
Salivar, in some sort of inner monologue, just says out loud, "Is that true?" Not expecting an answer.
You feel alone here.
Salivar rolls back his shoulders.
Well, I suspect that we must scout the city, understand this new paradigm. I must look for my children, and we must find answers.
Xavier kind of sits up and looks towards you all and then looks towards Azun. Azun has been kind of scurrying around, looking in corners, actually maybe running into some of those little honeycombed holes. It comes running back out, perched like a little bit above head high. Its little dark face pointing out. And it says, "The wizard from his time in Sorcerer remembers, in the center of the great tower, there is a mighty orb, an object of powerful scrying. It is protected in the sense that it's deep within, and only the masters have a wand of a unicorn horn which can control it. But it has abilities of scrying far beyond what is found in even the master's spellbooks. It can even look beyond this plane." It kind of gives a little sneering smile to Salivar.
And what answers will it give?
It depends on the question you ask.
Jake, does Xavier have any idea in general? These are not things that can be used to look at the past. Just
Right. It'll let you. I mean, you can look at anything that you can kind of name.
right. So could potentially help to find people that are in Menzo, but also know what's going on down with House Duskrin below. Unter Duskrin. So he conveys that. Azun does.
An orb of such power can see through the planes as if they were laid out flat in front of it.
Devin, one thing that Salai knows is that sort of magic, while this is definitely an arcane thing, and Sorcerer is all about arcane magic, that sort of power would require some sort of divine energy.
I mean, that's what Salai immediately thought of when the imp started talking about a great orb of power. In her mind, it just flashes the image of the moon.
There's definitely, it could be Loth's power, could be something else, but you know that just the arcane isn't enough for something so powerful, and that can literally cross the planes like that.
This power is mighty. I have no doubt if we were to gaze upon the scrying orb, we could answer many questions.
There's one that concerns me. I am not only here for my children, but I was visited by a messenger. He told me that my wife's soul has been taken into some sort of custody. It has been captured. That is why my children are here. They are looking for answers. And that messenger, it is demonic in nature. And many of you,
He doesn't say that.
he says, and all of you were present 100 years ago when we fought that fiend above Menzo. Maybe it is connected. Maybe it isn't. But that orb may have answers. Answers that we cannot find from anyone else. Answers about what our family is doing.
He looks at Jidden when he says that.
He nods slowly.
If they conspire deep in the nine hells, we must use some great power to find these answers, to reach them. Unless you have secrets we don't know.
He looks at over to you when he says that.
Xavier kind of sits back, and Azun now kind of scurries out of that hole. He comes over. He's actually, his little hands starting to helped arrange some of these crystals out in this ritual, and he stops and looks up. And he says, "The wizard's path has been a long and winding one. He has come across a number of spells, enchantments, incantations, divinations, some of which may be useful, but there is no great solution. Nothing that can easily answer all the questions that you seek. With his," he looks up at Severe, "lucky eye, he does get glimpses that may give more information than this, but he cannot call them forth."
Well,
Could you call them forth if you had access to the libraries of Sorcerer?
Other things in there, as you saw with Pitrix, knowing a devil's or demon's name is a great power over them, can be summoned, bent to your will. If we wish to travel to or learn more about House Duskren below, there is much useful there. But as far as the wizard's fortunate gifts from his encounter with the spell plague, he has no more control over them than he does over his voice.
a little more torture humor.
Salai looks at Severe.
Severe casts like a glance down, and you just see like anger over his eyes as he looks at Azun. But he looks up and kind of shrugs and nods.
Salai has like a sorrowful sort of look. Empathizing look.
He catches your eye with that and looks away.
While I would not suppose to co-opt your help while I am here, I would say that all of us are in danger if House Duskren returns.
He looks mostly between Zavir and Salai.
Regardless, all the more reason we should make haste to find your children. Besides, you will be distracted if they are still in this city and we go on our business.
Agreed. Jidden, how far to Menzo?
You're technically in the city.
We're like, I mean,
You
to
probably,
make
but
it out
you know,
of Claw Rift.
you probably took a weird sort of circuitous route because you were above the city and now you're below it.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm asking, because I figured like my orientation probably isn't great.
Which is kind of why I said, like, I mean, 2 days have passed since our last game. Like, you know, you probably travel kind of through the wilds, like, you know, tunnels, staircases and shafts and stuff to get down here. Yeah.
Do we level up with that journey?
No.
Seems
You didn't
pretty-
fight
That's
anything.
weird.
Yeah.
What? Come on.
He didn't defeat
There's no
anyone.
elephants
Hook
around here?
horse. What, a 12 hook horse? Is it?
I think the equivalent of an elephant is a rothe.
Okay.
Well, it's more of a cow.
Sweet.
We just head out into the fields.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted. You had asked him how far to Menzo. You could be. Let me look at this map over here.
Ew.
Take that, listeners.
You could be. You're in the Claw Rift right now. The Claw Rift is sort of there. Sort of flanks two districts of the city, which are, I'm going to use the nicknames pretty much entirely because the
other
just
ones are-
easier. The Many Folk District, which is where the bazaar is. It's a permanent fair trade. A lot of merchants and quote unquote common folk live in the Many Folk District. It's the biggest part of the city. It's the most sort of typical city type place, like where you could go to a tavern and, you know, pick up a map or whatever.
Wouldn't have thought Drow were
Go
really
find
into
a
fair trade.
blacksmith and whatnot. The Many Folk District is also the only place where non-Drow are legally allowed to trade goods. So there's a lot of merchant guilds for like the Druger and stuff like that located in that city, section of the city. The other side of the Claw Rift that you could exit into is the Stench Streets, which is kind of the biggest part of the city, but it's also completely awful. It's downtown LA. It's a shanty town. It's
Shout out to our California listeners.
God, no, they hate it the most. Are you kidding? It's almost entirely populated by non-Drow. In fact, in recent times, as you will, as Jidden probably is aware, Drow have been attacked on site in that area of town. It's
hear that there's-
incredibly dangerous. Go on, Josh.
There's a lot of those creatures, those like
cut, whatever you're about to say.
demon creatures, slads. They call it slad row.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
No, I'll let that one go.
No, nobody wants that.
I'll let it go.
Slad.
I get it. It's a little Skid Row joke. Slad Row. I get it. It's dangerous for you folks. Yeah. And it's very poor, and we'll learn all about it. Don't worry. We'll be there very soon.
We're just not going to go there
One
now.
thing I'll teach you guys about all those at home listening, if you're running a D&D game, as soon as you say, this is really bad, don't go there, they will immediately go there. I told them the Claw Rift was dangerous and haunted, and everyone who sets up base there has died. And what did they do? They said, let's go build a base in the Claw Rift.
Figure the odds are on our side. I mean, it's even a 1% chance. It's getting better for us.
So you guys are currently in the Claw Rift, which is this kind of series of chasms and crevices in the floor of the main cavern. So it's really a labyrinth down there. And the section you're in was kind of well established and well settled by Bergendarth. So it's not the wilds of the Underdark. But in order to get back up into the city proper, you do sort of have to go through some wild places where, the cavern floors might be started to get overgrown with like molds and mushrooms and stuff like that, wild places. So anyway, yeah. What was the point of that?
I was asking how far Menzo is.
How far Menzo is, like 20 minutes.
Okay. Was that by car or by?
Well, you said there were two districts that flocked.
Those are the two districts. Yeah, the
'Cause
many folk,
it's a ravine.
the
the
many folk
district, and the Stench Streets.
just right, L.A.
Well, not long. It's not safe, but not long. The many folk, Stench Streets.
There are few places safe in Menzo.
Stench Streets, they are not one. Not for you, at least.
Who are you looking at when you say that?
All of you. There is the bazaar. Shops, stalls. You'd fit in.
I remember. Well, I suggest that we make our way to the city. Begin gathering information. Jidden, do you still have contacts here?
No. Most have died. Or left. But there's always the fun in making new ones.
Matt, take a point of inspiration for not giving yourself any contacts in the city. I like that.
You're going to need it later because you don't have any contacts.
I mean, Bergendarth has left.
Yep.
I don't come down
Correct.
here anymore. So it's not.
Yep.
Last time you were here, you killed someone.
Yeah. Tried to keep that secret.
All right, so you guys are going to kind of go do some information gathering for various tasks.
Do we think we probably makes sense to kind of split our efforts here, break up and do?
I think that'll give us a chance for some of the topics we discussed. We wanted to do this game for everyone to kind of do them.
Sure.
I think Zavir will probably be most useful staying here, working on fully understanding where the non-detection exists, where these alarms exist, what other ways in avoid them. Basically just getting good layout, and then maybe using that arcane eye again, which is basically this invisible eye, and he can kind of sit there and trance and scout, and it's unlimited range. It lasts an hour.
What kind of vision does it give you?
Sight and I think only sight, just visual
What if it was
information.
sight and taste? Would be
It
weird.
has normal vision and dark vision, 30 feet, can look in all directions.
Cool.
But it can't hear. It has no magical sight.
All right. Well, we'll start with you with that while everyone else thinks about where they want to go and what they're trying to accomplish.
One thing, as he's obviously kind of left to his devices, as we're packing up or getting ready to leave, Silavar comes over to where Zavir is sitting, and crouches down, kind of eye level with him, and says, "There is someone else here in these tunnels. Since gone, but they haunt it still. You understand?"
Xavier nods. He has parchments and stuff out. Actually, let's say he had sent Azun, his little imp, to start scouting some of these small little holes that he can't fit in. And he actually writes out on he takes a piece of parchment and writes, ghost ?
Salivar nods affirmatively.
Writes describe it.
Salivar jots down a few words. Tall, female.
He writes down, "I can hear you."
So good. Yeah.
You see, if you actually probably do that just by
absolutely, because it's the exchange.
He can't smile, but you kind of see
his eyes.
Probably for the first time since you've seen him, like a little kind of light look in his eyes.
Salivar rocks back a little on his heels and kind of nods bemused. She was tall. Jake, could I see any features of or insignias of a house?
No, but she was wearing priestess robes.
She wore the robes of a priestess of Loth.
And Jake, do I know which house was formerly here?
You know that Duskrin was here, but you don't recognize her. House Duskrin was on the edge of the Claw Rift. There has been other houses since you've been gone, but you don't know about them.
Okay. I think Xavier asked for some information about like where he saw them in the tunnels and gets that.
Okay.
We'll add that to his little plan for scouting.
All right, the three of you guys think about what area you're going to go to, if you're going to go together or separate, what sort of information you're trying to get initially, and then I'll get to you in a second. But Josh, why don't we start off with a roll?
Okay.
Why don't we do an Arcana roll?
Arcana roll? Okay.
To see if you get possessed.
So I'm gonna use at least one 4th level spell for Arcana. I don't know if you want to incorporate that.
Listeners, sometimes I throw stuff out there like that to get a read on Jake. See if he kind of can't contain his mirth.
Yeah. Listening back to the Shadow over Halegrave game, you did that at one point, and I must have missed it initially because I'm listening back and I'm like, damn, Dan just nailed the main plot in the first 20 minutes.
He's actually he's going to use a lot here, and maybe instead of doing as much in the city, he's really focusing on fully exploring this area between. He's got the Skellies to kind of hang out.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask, are they still here?
Oh, yeah.
The Mighty Vanguard is still
We just always assume that you're being followed by like a Diablo necromancer.
Yeah,
you're always surrounded by skeletons.
They probably chill in this little main cavern. They're hanging up like the nice curtains and the live, laugh, love and everything. They're looking at each other like one of them's like up on the left.
The other one kicks a ladder and then it falls and breaks apart and they all have a laugh.
Oh, severe skellies.
It's like how every Disney movie has like the trio of like the silly trio. They're all in a different color, like different primary color.
In Snow White, there were 7 of them.
I want this on Adult Swim. I want this cartoon.
He's going to use a couple 4th level spells to really
why don't you describe what's going on here?
Fully explore this. So the skeletons stay in that little main corridor, but Xavier moves through using he's gotten very adept at surviving on his own with no companions other than the ones he can conjure for assistance. So Azun kind of flies with him, sometimes close by, especially when he sends this arcane eye out in other areas out of sight to explore further away. Azun kind of watches over him and then comes back closer. And then also at his side is Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, which is another 4th level spell. It's a phantom watchdog and lasts for 8 hours. It's invisible to all creatures except you, can't be harmed. and it can see invisible creatures and can see into the ethereal plane and ignores illusions. So actually, let me understand this better. He sends out Azun and the Arcane Eye, looking through them, and the Watchdog just stays and watches over himself. And in this way, he kind of moves through, mapping the chamber, using detect magic, trying to find, like I said, the limits of all these wards that we find, any other kind of threats, and where this specter might be, and any other more material dangers. So,
Very cool.
Knowledge Arcana.
Roll with advantage.
Yeah, says all that, then rolls a 2. Cool. That's the lane. I'm going to reroll that. Yeah, didn't do much. 21.
Okay. While the Zune is out and you're sort of all alone, you're making your way through this main cavern. You've got your detect magic going. The hound is following you. And the hound, it kind of glows with that magic, conjuration magic, I assume. And as it's walking by your side, suddenly it disappears. And then a moment later, it's back as it walks through this one section of the cavern. And you kind of look back at that area and you focus on it and you try to detect any sort of magical auras. And instead, you just get this sort of gray haze. There's this maybe 10-foot circular area that is a null magic zone.
Oh, boy.
And as you're kind of looking around, you realize that it must be some sort of natural feature of the rock of the cavern itself. You remember studying these things in school. One of the reasons Menzoberranzan was built in this cavern is because of this sort of wild magic, this defensive sort of thing that wards magic. And you know, because you studied it, that it's very hard to teleport in and out of the city. There's certain places where you can do it, and there's certain places that are even more dangerous. And it's also very hard to scry in the city. But this is something a little different. This is a natural area where it seems like magic just doesn't work. And as you're looking at it, you notice these weird marks in the ground, these like, it looks like spikes were driven into the ground. And at first it kind of confuses you, but then you think about the time you spent in that cavern on the surface, and you remember how hard it was to get your tent spikes into the stone. And you realize that there was probably a tent intentionally set up right on this spot.
Where they would be.
Where no magic seems to work.
Immune to magic. Okay.
This is something that you think could help you hide from a Zune.
Interesting. And by extension from Alita.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Those guys are your friends, so why would you want to hide from them?
You don't spot the strange drow lady, but the Eye and Azun do a good job of sort of mapping these caverns. They're intentionally made to be confusing. The magic non-detection doesn't seem to go beyond this main cavern, though. And you start sort of scrawling down notes for the alarms and figuring out where they work. You do learn that they only work on like man-sized or larger creatures. A Zune doesn't trigger it. I don't know if the Eye would trigger it, but like small animals and stuff like that wouldn't trigger it.
Okay.
But you start kind of identifying you're like, oh, they're like the wind chimes have like different charms on them and are different colors, and each one sort of correlates with a different passage or a different tunnel.
Got it.
So you're able to, after a while, figure out which one each one is.
Cool.
And then you start actually focusing on that, and this will take a few days, but you think that you can essentially change the alarms to allow certain people to pass without turning them off.
Okay. Useful.
Yeah. All right. The rest of you, Jidin and Salai and Salivar. The three of you get up to the city streets. And what's the plan?
Yeah.
Can we see the ruins of House Duskgrin from here?
Yeah, you can see it.
Salai is looking up at it.
This is as you said, a rift in the actual kind of floor of the cavern of Menzoberranzan.
Correct.
Yep.
There's lots of walkways that traverse it, like, rope bridges and stuff like that.
Yep.
Because on either side is, bustling city.
Sure.
And it is sort of a natural divide between the Many Folk District and the Stench Streets.
Is there like a substantive bridge, like a true stone bridge or anything?
There isn't. There's just maybe a couple dozen smaller rope bridges, nothing super permanent. And none of them are like guarded.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one or two are guarded that like don't lead onto streets. They might lead directly into different buildings.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, you could just walk back and forth.
Got it.
And you do see the occasional person doing that.
And is there a lot of kind of traffic, so to speak, on the edge of the rift? Like when we start coming out of it, do we kind of stand out? Or
So on the Stench Street side,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of open. So there's like almost like a road that travels right along that edge, and you see people like throwing trash into the chasm.
Yep.
It seems to be that's mostly what it's used for on that side. On the other side, there's a lot of buildings, probably storage buildings, warehouses, stuff like that, where they're using it as a sort of natural back wall where they
A boundary,
maybe
yeah.
don't have to defend from one location. So on that side, on the Many Folk side, you mostly just see the backs of buildings.
I think as Silavar's looking back at the ruins of House Duskgrin, and he turns towards the Many Folk kind of bazaar area, I think my questions will find purchase among the merchants. At least those who deal in magics. I think that's where they would start looking.
Salai looks at Silavar. She watches him as he looks up as he's looking at the ruins. Can I roll an insight on?
Sure.
She's trying to determine if Silavar might have any
Regret.
or fears about going to house, like the place where House Duskgrin, where he once lived. 14.
I'd say the only thing you really probably see in his gaze is he sort of squints at the ruins, and it could almost be perceived as, if anything, anger before he turns his attention on the Many Folk District.
So Salivar makes his way into the bazaar, into the marketplace.
Yes.
All right. Jidden, what are you doing?
I think Jidden is probably going to head into Narbondelum,
Okay.
the wealthier,
Yeah.
more drow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's probably going to use use a bunch of skills. I mean, he's going to want to use.
What are you trying to do?
He is getting a lay of how the city lies, what houses are in power,
Okay.
who's feuding with who, if there's been any, just sort of anything out of the ordinary in the city. I think ideally, though, he is thinking about the conversation he had with Jarlax about the Duskgrin signated people who came up into the city. So he's kind of like has an ear out for anything that is any relation to the old family.
Okay. Now keep in mind, he also did tell you that it was a trap.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Are you using your secret identity thing?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do have the charlatan background. So I was thinking he's going to go in, and since he hasn't been here in a while, he's going to probably use an alter self spell and just make him look, change his appearance completely. He's going to look like a tall, beautiful drow, long white hair, almost like aristocratic and noble.
Awesome.
I think you showed this to us last week.
Yeah. Yeah. So he doesn't look anything like himself.
Cool. So as you guys exit the Claw Rift, Jidden's mask fades into this face, and you say anything to them, or do you just kind of
I think he just
goes.
Yeah, they're looking back at the fallen Duskren house, and as they kind of look back, you just see this like tall, beautiful drow walking away from you. But I think I'm also going to try to use like sleight of hand. I think he's going to try to like pickpocket people that look like they're going to possibly have information on them, or even just some
All right.
some things to help him around the city to get into other houses if he needs to.
All right. Devin, you turn and you see Salvar and Jin walking off in opposite directions.
Before Silavar had left, Salai took out that owl feather and just like pinned it in your coat, and I cast Enhance Ability on you.
Nice.
I pat you on the shoulder, and you have the owl's wisdom.
Nice.
And then as they walk their separate directions, maybe we just see Silavar. Camera swings around. He's got the feather sticking out, and then this wind sort of blows past you and then subsides. I use a spell called Wind Walk.
Okay.
I can assume an airy form, a gaseous form, and while I'm in this cloud form, I can fly very fast, like the wind.
Okay.
And Salai wants to see about getting us into Sorcerer.
Okay. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to go to House Vandry.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
There's a balcony on the tallest tower of House Vandry.
All right.
Don't die.
Cool. All right. Yep. Okay, let's well, give me a minute to think about that one. Let's start, but thank you. I was kind of worried none of you were going to do the fucking thing we talked about doing.
Nope.
So,
Devin's got you.
thanks, Devin. So Dan,
Yes.
side plot number 6.
Yep.
You make your way into the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
No one really pays you much attention. There's a lot of strange looking creatures here. It's about half drow, half other. You fall neatly into that other category. And your clothing now is the thing that's probably the most out of place. Having spent a century on the surface, you're not wearing the sort of thing that most drow or underdark creatures wear. Just materials,
Sure.
cotton,
Yep.
stuff like that. But what do you want to do to kind of try to find some information?
I think his instinct is that the information that they have or were told is that there are answers here that can point them in the direction of what lies beyond, how to access it, specifically probably demonic in nature. And in a place like this that has access to a lot of kind of either arcane or knowledge or things of that nature, he wants to find someone who deals in those sorts of goods, that deals in that sort of information. So whether that's, any merchants that cater to wizards,
Okay.
or any that cater to the resources that a lot of the priestesses use to summon devils and things like that. I think that's where he's going to kind of aim his attention.
Okay. So you just sort of start asking around and looking for, asking who might sell things that
Specifically to
that
summoning, summoning magics. Yeah.
Why don't you give me a check, either deception or is diplomacy still a skill?
Persuasion.
Persuasion.
I'll use deception. Ultimately, I don't want any kind of nature or anything of me to be left behind.
Right.
Yep.
You're trying to get this information without really giving away anything.
20.
Okay.
Dirty 20.
All right. You actually strike up a conversation with this drow merchant who you just notice looking over his stall that a lot, he's not advertising this, but a lot of the things he's selling are spell components. You've seen enough of Zavir's spell components, and you've spent a little time in Sorcerer to be able to identify, what bat guano is used for. And so you approach this merchant, and you don't carry a weapon, obviously, right?
Nope.
But you look pretty crazy. And he sort of looks you up and down, and he says, "Looking for something?"
I am. Information.
He looks at him kind of straight on.
Information. He was going to pick up a vial with a live centipede crawling in it, and he puts it down, and he turns back to you.
I am trying to collect a bounty.
On what?
2 individuals that might shop your wares. I realize this is bad business, but I can perhaps offer a monetary incentive, a transaction.
He nods.
Salivar looks around at the table. He points to the thing he was about to pick up.
How much?
The centipede?
Mm-hmm.
He says, 5 copper.
Salivar puts down the equivalent of 50 gold.
Used for a spell that allows you to cling to walls. In other places, they use a spider. It must be consumed, however, and we would not dare do such a thing.
Wouldn't we?
Wink.
Carries the penalty of death to harm a spider. But I have found that the common house centipede works just as well.
We are all fated to die. These 2 especially. One is dark. The other is pale. They are unusual. Like myself.
He kind of gestures towards his horns.
May I ask who hired you to collect this bounty?
You may not.
I'm self-employed.
May I? Would it be safe to assume that they are like you? You give me an insight roll.
Sure.
You have advantage on this.
Oh, yeah. Owl's wisdom.
Another dirty 20.
You think that this guy thinks that you're looking for devils and that you were sent by some sort of devil to collect them.
Yep.
He seems a little nervous, but you can just tell that is the story he has constructed in his head.
Their persona, if you will.
As he kind of walks down the kind of his wares, looking at them, not looking at him now, and he lets kind of that shadow of what it's like to summon his weapon kind of dance around his hands as he like reaches for something and looks at it and then lets it fade again, kind of leaning into that.
Is as I've described to you, and I must find them. Do you have information or not?
Creatures such as the ones you've described often come and go in the city. But there is a place within the Stench Streets, a certain street. They call it the Infernal Keep. Most of the residents of this place are from your homeland.
Are they?
He nods.
Well, that is enough. I know where to find them, like I know where to find you.
He says over his shoulder as he walks away. He leaves the money on the table.
Okay. Wow. Devin, you coalesce on this balcony.
Takes a minute. I am incapacitated while I do so.
Okay. You're coup de grace. It takes 1 minute and you're incapacitated.
Yep. The whole time.
Now roll up a new character.
When
that
you-
name doesn't start with an
When
S.
you come to, when you become aware of your surroundings.
I'm always aware.
Okay. When you're finished and you're capable of moving, you're on the balcony, standing in front of you. tall and graceful as always in her long black gown that she's known for, is your mother, Matron Vendry. And standing by her side is a girl, a drow girl, maybe 15 years old.
15.
You've never seen her. Your mother has a stern look on her face. She obviously, has protections and knew someone had come in and is just waiting for you.
She bows her head. I'm cloaked. My robe is similarly black. And I bow my head. Excuse my intrusion, matron. It was urgent that I saw you.
Asina, we have good news this day. And bad, I'm afraid.
Salai looks down at the girl.
Why have you come back?
The stars stir on the surface. I came down to see if such omens existed down here as well. You have seen it.
You truly have fallen. So noble that you come to save your city.
I do not come to save Menzoberranzan. I come to stop this before it can reach the surface. It will wash through this place like a flood and bury Menzoberranzan. She looks down at the girl again.
You speak of House Duskred.
She says nothing. She just looks at her.
Your mother, she looks at the little girl and she says, the bad news is that if this one is here, then it heralds another coming. There is someone here who will surely kill me. An assassin. The same one that killed your stepsister, Fenra. I have no doubt he will come for me soon. And with the resources at his disposal, he will most likely succeed. Do you know what that means, Asina? The young girl looks at Matron Vendry and says, it means that I will be matron of House Vendry? Your mother looks at you and says, yes. It would have been your other sister, but she died on the surface with her harpies. She looks at you, Salai, and says, she volunteered to go with her whole band of harpies, and they did not return. And so I lost another daughter. But yes, Asina, it would mean that you would take my place as matron of the house. Except, now you won't. Because your sister, Savrakeen Vendry, has returned from the grave.
She has this crooked look on her face. She turns away from the two and looks out to Narbondal.
The young girl says, unless I kill her.
Now she squints. It's a look of pity and disgust.
That is our way.
She turns back. I need entry into Sorcerer. That is why I came.
Are those devils with you? Here to finish what they started.
Darkness has followed me my entire life, matron. There are more than devils here in Menzoberranzan.
Why would I help you?
She says quietly, so the girl can't hear. Because it is I who can ensure the survival of your house.
She looks at the little girl and says, more good news, Asina. You may not need to kill your sister. She wishes to run off and get herself killed.
You want her to live, don't you? You may die, but your legacy can live on. But in a city still infested with spiders.
When House Duskren returns, we'll all die. They'll take their vengeance out on each and every one of us.
And what if they were to not return? There are ways that I can see beyond even your sight, ways to ensure that these twisted things that come readily to Menzoberranzan, there are ways to ensure that they stay locked away. I need access. I need entry into Sorcerer.
As you know, I have no sons who have studied there. Both of your brothers had different talents. But
She looks at the child again and then looks at Shara, silently implying that she must know some, some male, some wizard perhaps.
give me a insight roll.
23.
You've always known that your mother is very good at reading thoughts. You know that right now she is reading the girl's thoughts, and the girl knows it and is telling her something, is saying something to her. They're essentially having a silent conversation in front of you, one way, but there's a long silence, and then Matron Vandry, she kind of chuckles, says, over the past few months, there have been people trying to learn things about Sorcerer. I don't know why, but I've heard whispers of them. Seek out a Yuan-Ti in the stench streets called Yil. You can find him at the Claw and Hoof.
I look out over the city, sort of find the way. Trying to remember, it's the looking out over this place after 100 years.
If you wish to help me, you could tell me where that devil is. The one that killed Fenra. She kind of glances around nervously.
She catches that.
Is he coming for me even now?
Little smile. If he is, I fear there's nothing I could do to help you. I wish you safety, Matron Vandry, but only so long. Kind of want to threaten her, but not overtly in front of her.
She feels pretty threatened. She's afraid the fucking crazy assassin is
Lurking in the bushes.
He could be there any moment.
And then her daughter transforms into Jitty.
This whole time.
So long as that devil is occupied with other things, I predict he won't fall upon you so soon.
Nice. I feel like the camera is fading to black as you say that, and then it fades in on Jidden walking through Narbondellen, which is the really nice part of the city. The fancy, smooth stone streets and fairy fire lit walkways with, lanterns. And if you didn't know better, you would feel like you were in an elf city on the surface.
None of those wretches running around.
You almost, you don't even see a lot of soldiers. You just see younger, like younger as in maybe 40, 50 years old, drow. And there's not that sort of tension that watching their back. They pay people for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you make your way down the street. You get a few glances. You're, really good looking on your own, walking down the street. You get some glances. What are you doing? Where are you heading? What do you want to do?
I think he probably would spend half a day in this part of town, going to different taverns to see what people are talking about. Probably goes to different high-end shops, picks up some things that he needs for their new little headquarters, and just just tries to make small talk, find out what's happening in the city, kind of come across as he's back from somewhere, back in the city after a while, and he's just kind of trying to figure out what's been happening. You know what I mean? That's sort of like that air of I'm well to do, so I'm just gonna go out and find out what's going on. Put my nose to the pavement kind of thing.
Okay. Give me 2 rolls. Give me a perception roll, and also give me an investigation roll.
What's the deal with all these spiders, huh?
Perception is good. Investigation is bad. Perception is 24. Investigation is 7.
Damn. Even though you notice that not a lot of people are willing to talk about much. It's clear that the city is very tense right now. There's not as much like there's a lot of shops here, and there's not as much like high-end merchandise available, and people just aren't really willing to like give you a lot of information. Everyone is sort of like a little bit paranoid, a little bit on edge. And one thing that you do kind of learn, which I kind of told you in the intro of the last game, well, you actually told the audience, is that because of the recent war, there is a lot of shortages, and you don't see it as much in this area, but you see it a little bit in that, like, you know, you can't maybe get like the finer cloths that were being brought in from like the surface, you know, stuff like that. And you see it in the attitude of people just being a little bit more standoffish here. With that really high perception skill, one thing that you notice is that you think you're being watched. You think that there's a lot of people who kind of look like they're just out and about having fun, shopping, whatever. But there's something else going on here in this area specifically. And it reminds you of the Thieves Guilds in Waterdeep. Like, they're keeping an eye on you. There's something like that going on here.
Okay. Do I feel like I've been pegged as a mark?
Not as a mark, but they're just as an outsider, and not necessarily a thief guild, but some sort of organization that is keeping an eye on you, and maybe just keeping an eye on things that are going on in this area.
Okay.
Paparazzi.
I think if Jidden is getting that feeling, I think when he is interacting with people and he gets the feeling that there's somebody within earshot, I think he would use his thieves' cant to just kind of carry on it, or like try to talk to somebody in a conversation, but dropping hints into that conversation that he knows that he is being followed, and if they'd like to continue to breathe, that they should back off or grow a pair and come and talk to him.
Okay. It actually works. They seem to almost disperse and leave you alone.
Cool.
It's the weird thing about it is that normally it would be, you'd expect that to be like a powerful house.
Yep.
Would do that. There's something different about this. It's more of a mix of different drow from different houses, different levels of wealth. There's some sort of organization in Narbondellan, and you're not sure what it is, but they've kind of got the place on lockdown.
Okay.
In a very subtle way.
Does it remind me of the beginnings of Bregendarth and how they started out sort of quiet and
yeah, but it doesn't seem like their intention is to try to like steal or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
More just protect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Could be that they're in the vacuum of Brigandarth having left.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, if that's what, but it sounds like it's more like some sort of local militia kind of thing. Is what I'm getting the hint of.
I think of, all the people who would be on the periphery, like the merchants and the people that Breg and Dareth used to use to, for their, the infrastructure of their control over, whatever neighborhood.
It kind of feels like all those things.
Yeah.
That's good spy movie shit.
All right, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. It's taking a little bit longer than I expected. Just reconvene maybe back at the HQ and kind of talk about everything that happened, and then can kind of, unless you guys wanted to do anything else before going back there in particular.
I think Salivar has decided that a place called Infernal Keep warrants
going with the boys.
Yeah.
He said it was a street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not a literal keep.
Yeah, I got it.
Right. Yeah. So you guys all meet back up.
Salivar walks into the kind of the larger chamber, and he scans the room.
The skeletons step aside as you walk in. They're like just flanked guarding. You see Zavir bent over. He kind of, there's this little raised dais area, and he set it up as a little spell HQ. You hear this alarm go on, and something flashes, and he looks kind of frustrated at it, like something didn't go as planned. And then you hear this barking as you get closer, and he looks like even more frustrated, and he like waves a hand, and you see kind of like a slight flash, and then dissipates.
Problems.
Azun scampers over. The wizard is working away at understanding our new home. He points a crooked little dark finger. One wall, there's a part that's kind of like this slate sheet on the wall, just where that natural stone is. And there's all these chalk drawings, and you see it's trying to mapped out, depicting these caverns. It's not 3-dimensional, so it's not necessarily like super easy to read, but there's a lot of notes on it and things like that. And Azun kind of starts to explain some of the things they discovered. The wizard is working on triggering these alarms so that this group shall pass unimpeded, unalerted. He found no sights of the specter you spoke of, although there is a interesting area. Null magic. It's not in this. It's in another.
It's in the main cavern.
Oh, it is in the main cavern. Okay. As Azun talks, Zavir kind of motions over to it, and you see some little stakes in the ground around it.
Salivar's walking alongside as Azun kind of scampers along the ground, and he walks in a slow circle around the non-magic, and then he steps into it.
What do you think happens to Salivar? You tell me.
Banished 100 years.
Poof, just gone.
Pop up next to the pit fiend. Oh,
I think you're blind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He stumbles for a second, and in so doing, kind of takes a few kind of hazardous steps outside of it again, and then clearly getting his bearings and his balance, he stares kind of darkly at it.
it might affect some of us differently. It can also be a useful tool.
Matt, you remember there used to be a tent here. And that tent is where Jaraxel would have meetings.
Smart. As you're having that conversation, you Jidin steps out from around the corner of one of those rooms in a hallway. He was always paranoid. Jarlax. That was where he always spoke the most candid.
Smart.
Unsettling.
Though this entire chamber is also protected from scrying to some degree. And the wards and the alarms, they will sound for larger creatures. There is still the greatest threat remains any smaller normal creatures and those that could pass through magical means.
Through walls.
Yes.
Yes. How comforting.
Has she shown herself to you?
Zavir shakes his head.
In time, then.
Has who shown herself? Salai walks out of the darkness.
The occupant. The one who was here before.
A spirit?
Of some sort, yes.
A priestess. We cannot concern ourselves with her now. If she doesn't show herself, reveal her intentions, there is not much to be done. What I want to know is what the rest of you found in the city.
He looks at you, Jidden.
It is different.
That is the word that Salai used.
Yes. Narbandel. It is more insular than before. There are those there that do a bit of what it is I do.
A guild?
Perhaps not as organized, but there is a cohesion, and it is not a single house, but many. Some non-affiliated, it would seem.
And they watched you.
Quite intently.
So they may recognize others.
They would. I take it that means you had no luck.
I know a place to look. The Infernal Keep. A street in Stench.
The Stench Streets.
A street in the Stench Streets.
It's a bit more of an alley.
It would seem it is a place the Infernal inhabit. Yes?
So they say.
Then it is likely my children will find their way there.
Oh, I hope not, for if they did, then you may only find pieces.
I would not be so sure. I
Ones
also
like you. Well, let's say that you wouldn't have any protection there. They care not for race, power. They openly attack on the streets, Drow. You're not allowed.
Then I will venture to say that it is fortunate they are not Drow. They are distinctly other. I do not think we should rush headlong into that place. What about you, Salai?
she isn't bothered by the mishap. She smiles at you to sort of assuage you.
Fucking dead named her. That's her evil name, bro.
I was ready to move on.
Most people usually are. That's when I speak up.
Oh boy. I learned of a UNT named Yil. I asked Matron Vandry about our prospects in accessing
You
Sorcerer.
asked your mother.
Like our number one enemy.
Zavir points a hand up to the board of like objectives. Number 1, secrecy.
She is not my mother, and I did not reveal much.
You revealed yourself.
It is of no consequence.
How is she?
Wow, that's creepy.
Where is she specifically?
Exactly.
Yeah,
What was she wearing?
dart a look over at Jidden. She has seen what we have seen. She is not blind to the world around her. She is not foolish. She is careful. She gave me a name and a creature who could help us. I am inclined to believe her.
It may be your last belief.
Hmm.
She says it will give us information on how to reach the orb.
I believe so.
And how do we motivate it?
The same way we motivate the Roth. We hang food in front of them. Show them what they want. Between the four of us, we can find out what that is.
And if it fails, we take it by force.
She nods resignedly. There is no time to waste.
Lead the way.
Screen wipe.
Yeah. Diddly, diddly, diddly.
The bell on the door to the claw and hoof rings as the four of you walk in.
Record scratch. Everybody
It's-
looks.
4 skeletons lead the way.
It is the Cantina at Mos Eisley Spaceport. It is filled with different looking creatures of a dozen different races. There's some sort of 2-headed giant behind the bar serving drinks. You see a few thrycreen, which are
Wow.
insectoid creatures at a table.
Red Mantis assassins?
You see about a dozen goblins and kobolds sitting together at a long table playing some sort of card game. There's orcs, ogres, goblins, hobgoblins, bugbears, all of them. And as John said, record scratch. You open the door and all conversation ends. And everything in the bar, all eyes, all pairs, single eyes, sets of 4, they all turn on the 4 of you.
But before we
Okay. Okay.
just a quick thing, like as part of a short rest, Xavier swapped out one spell
Sure.
on his spell
Yep.
book. And
Did you guys want to have any spells preprered before you walked in here?
One
Like,
spell. You swapped
casted?
out one spell out of 50.
I took a picture.
Just the
It's
one.
I
insane. Yeah.
think I can
This guy's over here playing 4D chess, man.
I can only recover one on a short rest. But he got tongues,
Say more.
and before we walk in, Xavier touches Silavar on the shoulder, and Azun whispers something arcane and says close in your ear, kind of too close for comfort. You will be able to speak and understand any language of any we encounter.
That's pretty handy in this place.
And yeah, Xavier also casts comprehend languages on himself, so he'll understand it, but can't.
Awesome.
But guess what? He can't speak it. At
He doesn't
all.
have a tongue.
Nice. Perfect.
Jidin's dropped altered self by now. It's come off. He's just in his mask,
Okay.
dark hair.
All right.
Salai tightens. She reaches in her robe behind and she tightens that leather strap, casts freedom of movement again on myself. And then as she pulls tight, she lets out this bestial grunt. I'm going to cast enhance ability, give myself bear's strength.
Ooh.
She
Sexy.
seems bigger. She, even though she's she'll stand in the back.
Her shadow is a lot bigger.
Juicing.
Yeah.
A dozen conversations start up in different languages, all about the 4 of you, all questioning if anyone knows who you are, why you would come here. A lot of talk about, I don't see any house sigils. Are they mercenaries? Stuff like that.
A popular topic.
I say over my shoulder to the 3 of you.
The bugbears are actually having an argument about whether or not they should just attack you right now.
As we walk through, I'm scanning, looking for Yunti.
You guys make your way up to the bar. As I said, there's an Itten, a 2-headed giant behind the bar. And one of the heads turns and looks at you. He's got this kind of gray beard, shaved head, big scar across the top of his head. And he says in Undercommon, like a drink?
a drink, and I'm hoping to meet someone.
The other head is actually talking to someone on the other side of the bar. It's like a circular bar. Who might that be?
I turn to you.
We are looking for Yill.
The giant kind of turns and moves, and you see that the other head facing the other way was talking to a Yuan-Ti on the other side of the bar, and he sort of steps out of the way, and across the bartender's sort of in the middle, and across from him you see this Yuan-Ti. The Yuan-Ti, for those who aren't giant D&D nerds, has the upper body of a humanoid, except scaly. This one is male, sort of thin build, but very muscular. No hair. Its head is looks mostly humanoid, except it's like shaved and scaled, and has these two kind of big fangs that come out of its mouth, pointed ears, and then its lower body is a serpent, so it sort of stands upright on this long serpentine tail.
Generally good guys, right?
Yeah, it is. Its scales are green and blue, and it looks across the bar and says, "I hope I'm not in trouble."
Far from it.
May we sit?
It motions over to a side room. You see this room with a table set up in it, and there's a couple orcs in there, and it very quickly gets up from its seat and slithers through the crowd over to that door and speaks in Orcish and tells them to leave and actually, for those of you who understand Orcish at the moment, it bribes them. It gives them 2 gold to give up the room. And then it just gestures to all of you to come over.
Did you mark that in your character sheet, Jake?
my character sheet.
He's got a DM tally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only get 1 billion gold. We'll talk about that later, but I do want to figure out some sort of mechanic for you guys for keeping track of treasure. But anyway, it gestures over for you guys to come over.
As we turn and head towards this room, Salavar turns and stares at the bugbears.
Okay. One of them smiles at you, this sharp-toothed smile.
Salavar holds the gaze and then turns and walks towards the other room.
All right. Roll initiative.
Sully puts a hand on your shoulder because she remembers the last time we were in a tavern together.
Mm-hmm.
You make your way into this little side room. Yield coils up on like this long couch that wraps around the room and starts wrapping its claws on the table.
You come highly recommended, Yield, from the matron Vandree.
Never heard of her.
She speaks highly of you.
I know many people.
And that is why we come to you.
Who are you looking for?
It's more about what we're looking for. We want access to Sorcerer.
It smiles. Its long tongue flicks out and kind of licks the air. Then it is who, not what.
Say more.
I know one. One who wishes to enter Sorcerer. One who has studied the place, planned to enter. He knows many of its secrets. I can introduce you.
You would do this willingly.
Oh, there is a price, of course.
Say it.
It's quite simple. The one I introduce you to who will get you into Sorcerer. You must make sure he does not leave alive.
That is easy enough.
I put out my hand.
And why should I trust you to complete your part of the bargain?
My business is killing.
What is your name? Give me that.
Should have just changed your name, Dan.
Your true name, demon.
I bound you. You are bound.
I will give you the name of the organization I work for. My name is perhaps too dangerous even for you. I work for the Nightfall Company.
Yeah, you're telling the truth, so I won't make you roll anything. Very well. Should you fail to live up to your part of this bargain, then information may get to Grumph Ben Ray about who entered his tower.
It's a deal.
He waits for him to take his hand,
Okay.
shakes it.
Yep.
Where should we meet him?
Wait here. He slithers out of the room very quickly, and he makes his way over to the table of bugbears.
Grimgar says, brother, they are nobodies, not even nobles. You saw no sigil on them.
You guys hear the part I'm about to say from across the room. They mock us with their presence. They come here. They have everything. And yet now they must have our place too.
They do not know, brother. They smell of the surface. These are not drow of Menzoberranzan. They are outsiders.
They smell of rock, they dung.
We killed a bunch. Leveled up.
Yiel slithers over. It is a fortunate day for you, Shadowstalk.
What is it, Yiel? Another empty promise?
The drow wish to enter Sorcerer.
He looks at his brother. Let us speak.
He says, you've asked too many questions about that place. You've drawn too much attention. They're probably spies of the Academy.
They are not, brother. Bring me to them. I will judge their character.
As you're walking away, he says, you're too trusting of the drow. It'll be your death someday.
It will be your death sooner if you continue this crusade, brother.
That's called foreshadow.
What walks over to the booth?
You see, kind of pushing back a curtain, a 7-foot tall bugbear. His has a dark cloak over his body. With
Josh, you're Googling bugbear, aren't you?
It's going to show an image.
with the hood down. You see he has these pointy ears and a broad face, furry, with his brown matted fur. Underneath the cloak is like piecemeal leather armor that kind of shows some of the fur and body, but some of it's protected. And he has 2 short swords, well kept short swords at his side, as he kind of ducks below the entrance and enters in. He says in Elvish, he says in Drow, well met. I am Grimgar. I'm Grimgar. Yiel has spoken to me of you, of your wishes. Is it true?
Yes. And you have planned a heist.
You can tell the drow looks very skeptical.
Headband him.
Well, not drow.
He looks like intently in each of your eyes, like straight into your eyes. And what is your intention? What do you wish to gain from the Sorcerer?
Answers.
He says it kind of matter-of-factly.
No treasure, no magic artifacts, no forbidden knowledge.
Information is treasure.
That much is true.
Azun, this little shadow demon, little imp guy, jumps out on the table from underneath. Very shifty. Almost looks like it's like flashing as it moves, like a little kind of blur look to it. And it says, "In Sorcerer, all knowledge is forbidden."
As they say, I would not know. Can I make an insight check on these guys?
Sure.
I mean,
DC5, they're super sketchy.
You don't trust them.
18.
18.
You really don't trust them.
Probably holding back. I think they're holding back something.
Yeah, but they're such a motley crew
Yeah.
that it just doesn't seem possible that
Yeah.
they're like sent
Agents
by the
or whatever, yeah.
It's just like if they are, then they're just the best.
Yeah,
They're so
yeah.
fucking good.
We're very conspicuous.
Yeah, you stick out. And how am I to trust you four? Or he looks down at Azul. You five?
We would all take these risks equally, entering a forbidden place.
Our goals are aligned.
What do you seek from Sorcerer? Yeel tells us you have learned many of its secrets. Why?
I have. Have you not looked at the streets you walk?
I have seen them.
The many dying, plainly, being pushed off the ledge into the chasm?
That is the way of Drow.
No. That is the way of starvation. Ever since the war, the battle, there is nothing for us.
Jake, do we, as like growing up in Menzo, know the general like history of Drow bugbear kind of
Yeah, I mean,
relations?
they're usually slaves.
Slaves?
Yeah.
Okay. Like shock troops? Like, are they soldiers?
Yeah,
or are
usually,
they,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have mushroom farms here?
We? No. The Drow do. And they guard them even more jealously. They hold tight onto the things they have because they know we need them.
They hold on because they don't have much anymore.
Indeed.
Perhaps,
Their own foolishness brought that. They went to the surface to fight. They thought they could win before the sun. Fools they are.
And your weakness keeps you here in these rotten streets while they take over everything.
You call this cavern everything? He kind of gestures out to Menzoberranzan. There is more.
And yet you choose to stay
Yes.
because of the tower.
No. Because there are many of mine that cannot move. We are dying slowly. And in that tower, in the Sorcerer, as you call it, there are items, I know of it, that can produce food, water. I mean to steal them, use them for my people, and maybe we will see who is stronger between us and the Drow.
perhaps this will reassure you then. You see us. You see our belongings. We are from above.
I could smell it as soon as you entered. You smell of the surface.
So we do not care for Menzo. That puts us in accord.
Very well. I will work with you.
Azun says, we seek to take nothing from there. We are happy for you to take anything you can carry on your way out.
You will need the wand.
Oh, right.
As Azum says that, Jidin in hand code flashes, "Speak for yourself."
He says, I care not what you take from there. Take it all if you want. But know this, the way in is difficult. It has been many months I have studied this place, and with help, I have learned many secrets of the Sorcerer. None have brought me much comfort in this venture.
The imp speaks again, says, we are not completely strangers to this place. Some of us have spent a good amount of time there.
Then you know the walls themselves are lined with lead and blood of Gorgon, and the windows and doors have sigils upon them of gold that prevent any from within to view with their spider magics.
The item we will need, perhaps you have researched. The wand of a wizard, of a master wizard of Sorcerer, unicorn horn.
I mentioned it's in the same place where the thing you want was.
Right. I know of it. I have my snag has seen it. Another one of mine was taken the slave seal of the Sorcerer willingly, but there's many other conditions of the Sorcerer. You cannot enter it through another plane. You cannot cannot open portals. And those that are not drow and others like us, those from other planes, cannot willingly enter without a token from a drow. Those devils or undead or any of in Fae, they cannot enter. I know of.
You aren't sure, but looking at Salivar, you think he might be a demon. You're not sure.
He looks at you when he says devil.
It's a moniker he's gotten before.
There is a way to get a token. I know a drow, but it will come at a high cost.
We only need 2 then.
For the little one?
Yes.
Any other magics that change you, transmute you, they cannot be used within 100 feet. I have seen attempts from others to steal in with some crude magics, changing their appearance, and they change immediately and are killed on the spot. And you know of the master, the Archmage, Grumpf?
Yes, I have heard his name.
He rarely leaves the place. But when the light tower is at its peak, he must go. And Narbundal, he must tend to it. And when he does, he is gone.
You all know this, that the Archmage is
Archmage.
responsible for lighting Narbundal. So actually, when it gets down to black, the black death of Narbundal, he has to go and he casts a spell that heats it up. So you know that every night, essentially at midnight, he has to be at Narbundal.
Huge, powerful mage.
You
just
also know
turned
that
into
he
a-
is literally, clock timekeeper. Yeah, he is literally one of the most powerful mages in Faerun. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's definitely go there when he's not home.
He says, the items we seek are in his offices.
Of course.
Perfect.
There's more. In the Sorcerer, there is one they call Eight Eyes. A drow of no family at all. He has been a master there. He can see anything that is happening within the Sorcerer. It is said he can break those bonds that led in Gorgon blood. It doesn't affect him. I do not know how.
It's not just a rumor, a legend to keep people in check.
No, he knows things that he shouldn't.
Xavier, you remember when you were a student there? You remember some students trying to steal something from another master and him just knowing about it and being there when they arrived. And you remember hearing the rumors that this Eight Eyes, as they call him, had like knew the secret of overcoming the divination block.
As I see it, there are 3 ways into Sorcerer. The front is always guarded by 6, one who can see through illusions or darkness. They know every student's face. There aren't many of them now. Many of them died on the surface. Then, where my friend Snag goes, through the service entrance, where slaves enter. That is guarded by constructs, and it requires a token, a seal, a brand. That brand comes with a cost. They will know where you are. You'll be branded by a drow.
You all spent some time in Sorcerer, and you remember that the servants all have this brand. You might not have known the details of it, but you knew that it had some magic involved. But anytime you would see a servant in Sorcerer, they would have this brand. It's all right on their cheek.
Sick.
The last entrance is the most likely. A secret that some say is not a secret. The entrance through the Underdark. There is a cavern that enters into the Sorcerer, guarded by spiders, stone spiders. That was the way I would take, but I did not have the strength. I've seen them kill strong monsters before that have strayed too close. That is what I know.
All considerable options.
The imp speaks and says, there are two places in particular we must go. The High Master's Library and the Eye of Gokon. We will need the Horn of the Unicorn, the wand, before we go to the Eye.
We go to the office first. If we can deal with 8 Eyes somehow, hide ourselves, all the better.
Maybe we kill 8 Eyes.
Maybe we do.
All right, and that's where we'll end it.
Classic
Bingo,
heist.
bingo.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to A Tangled Web. Please, if you have time, tell a friend, write us a review, or, just go out and shout it on the rooftops. Check out all of our different social media platforms. You can go to our website and find links at the bottom. There's probably also links on whatever you're listening to right now. That's nastygramrpg.com, and definitely check out the socials because I tend to put little things on there to help with NPCs and visual aids and whatnot. Our intro music was by A Wilhelm Scream. Theme song is Oath by Adrian von Ziegler. All scores by Adrian von Ziegler and Antti Martikainen. Thanks for listening.
That's nasty.